Good morning, traders. Today is Tuesday, December 13th. My name is Charles, and this is the Pirate Traders live stream where we talk about the ES, the NQ, and the two-way auction process that they do. All right, well, what happened? What the heck is going on? Look what CPI did is definitely the title of today's episode. As you all are well aware, we have been tracking this trend line on the daily since the all-time high. It has, since the first moment it was created right here, it has worked as beautiful resistance, continuing to knock the market down again and again. And because of this CPI news that we got just a few minutes ago, the market has now completely, unquestionably, undoubtedly burst through that resistance. So the next question becomes, can we turn that resistance into support? Right? That's what we're looking for. When you break out of a range, you're looking for the market to break out and come back down and back test it, looking for continuation higher from there. So that's the first thing in my mind when I see this move the market made this morning. I then see the fact that we have a ginormous gap up. And a gap up tells us that the first order of business for the market is to try to fill that gap, to try to come back down and see if they can fill that gap. Now, gaps that are this large often don't fill on the first day. So the odds of getting all the way back down to yesterday's high are not that big, but the odds of at least trying are, right? That the market will at least try to get down there inside yesterday's range. However, with a gap this large, there is always the chance that we have just caught the market overly short. I was literally just today, I swear to God, I'm not making this up. I was just today going to talk about a tweet that I saw that was from like a week ago, or from a few days ago, but I just happened to have noticed it yesterday, and it was about how almost all the inventory in the options markets for the S&P futures, the SPY, and the SPX, almost all of it was net short. It was almost all puts. It was like, 75% puts, 25% calls. So this right here, a big part of this is a whole bunch of people just caught themselves on the wrong side of the market, and they're going to have to unwind those puts, and that is positive pressure on the market. So there is a very real chance, it seems crazy, but there is a very real chance we could get a gap and go. The market could start trying to fill the gap, barely get anything for it, turn around and start heading higher. Now, that to me doesn't seem like the more likely scenario, but it is possible. So there you go. Opening bell, first order of business, can they fill the gap? Okay, so the first move is to the downside. That is bearish to me that they are trying to fill that gap. I will remain bearish as long as we remain below the opening price. and I will be looking for resistance at the halfback as it makes its way lower with the market. If the market is able to pull back up through the opening price, once again, I will be neutral and looking for support above the halfback at that point. But for now, it seems like they want to try to fill the gap. It is a very large gap. So I am bearish to try to fill it. Let's see what they can get for it. It's also worth noting on the bigger picture large node conversation that we always like to remind ourselves about. This is more of a day-to-day thing than an intraday thing, but the market often tends to work its way from one large node directly to the next. Okay, the last large node was the murder of death right down there at 39.69. We were able to break away from that yesterday. You can see that's what was yesterday's low. Able to break away from it, we made that big move to the next major node. Well, the same potential thing could play out to the downside. So we're going to look for support here around the 41.15s. And if the market can hold that, well, that's fine, right? But if that breaks, it would increase the odds in our mind that the market needs to head down to the next major node. We also note that next major node is a previous balance area high. So that's a great area to come back and back test for support. So we are looking for potential support here in this node around 41.15, 41.16. But if that breaks, it could lead to a bigger pullback. All right, so we're finding some support here in that big node. So now we're looking for the market to create resistance. We've got this area right here around 27. It's a large node of volume from, so far today. That could act as resistance for the next push lower. If not, we may have to pull back up and test that halfback around 41.30. Okay. Wow, that support just instantly broke. So that is bearish, right? There's very little support here. As they say, nothing but air below price here. A little potential support here around 41.04. If that breaks, continuation lower. RK says smart money made their money yesterday at 41.75. I would say smart money is going to make their money today when the market closes. I think there's going to have been a lot of 0-day puts that are supposed to expire today that will expire worthless. And whoever sold those puts will get to keep all the money. I can always tell when the chat is busy scalping the shit out of a gap because it's super quiet out there. Everybody doing okay? All right, so we're looking for some resistance here as we work our way back up into that node. We were looking for this to act as support. It didn't even hardly act as support, but now will it become resistance? Ederson, do you feel that the node around 41.13 becomes support? It is acting as support right now, but let's just see what happens with the resistance. Right now, it's a gap fill, right? It's trying to fill the gap. So it's like the sellers are in charge. So the way you test how successful the sellers aren't really whether or not the market finds support, because it's always going to find support on the way down. It's what happens when you get back to resistance. It's when you get back to challenging those sellers. Then what happens? Does the market, boom, get smacked down once again? Well, then the sellers remain in control. We can also watch the ticks. They should be back to the zero line by now. Oh, still not back to the zero line. So once these ticks get back to the zero line, we can watch those as well as a sign for new buyers or sellers. But as long as those ticks remain above the zero line, right from the open, it tells us there's still inventory that's net long from the overnight that has not taken profits. All right, so this node didn't become resistance. Now let's test the halfback, 41.25. Does that become resistance? All right, well, pushing back through the halfback is a little bit less bearish to see. I'm going to remain bearish here as long as we're below, say, 36. Just because I think this might be, there's a lot of inventory flying back and forth. This may just be a little overreaction. But if we can get back up through 36, then this could be a gap and go. I'll be neutral again, and then a pass back through the open price will get me bullish again. Rocket says the NQPOC is moving faster than most days candles. Yeah, I bet the NQ is pretty crazy right now. Oof, man, NQ looking like a gap and go. All right, so you're in your resistance right now. If they can hold this 12 to 75-ish area, they can smack it back down. But if they pass back through the opening price, 12 to 89, that's a gap and go. And that gets very bullish very quick. The first target being testing the overnight high. So let's see if they can hold this resistance on the Q. John Lash, NQ froze during the CPI numbers, was frozen for a good 2 minutes. Probably your connection to NQ was. Somebody with a more high-speed connection was getting their trading done. The bots were getting their orders filled. Well, I'll be damned. Guys, this is kind of bullish. There are no sellers to smack this market down. That move was just absorbing the overnight inventory. Ooh, they're holding the ticks, man. And I know what you're thinking. I know what you're sitting out there right now and you're thinking to yourself, you're thinking, self, who's doing the buying up here? What kind of silly fool is buying after the market makes a giant gap up like this? I'll tell you who, somebody who was short, who has to get out of that short. All right, so now that we're back below the halfback, once again, can we turn that into resistance? Can that hold? Scrapper, my tick chart is below the zero line right now. Not mine. We're getting close, though. Edgy, is the cannabis sector still a buy the dip? Oof. I would not want to have to guess that right now. I will say, if the market can find support, like on the daily, if the market is able to come back down and back test this breakout and we find support in here, things could get really interesting. But until that back test is proven, I am very suspicious of what we're seeing here today. I am more on the side of assuming that this move higher was just the market got itself overly short down here, and this is an overreaction, the same way this one was. Boop, boop, overreaction, came right back. Why can't we have another overreaction come right back, you know? Ross B, any thoughts on trading YM or RTY instead of the ES? Well, I find the Dow to be very boring, but you can trade the Russell. I mean, it's just you pick whichever market you like, and you base it on how you feel when you trade it, right? For some people like me, for example, I can't trade the NQ. It's too sporadic. It moves too quickly. So I just can't trade it. I don't like it. But the ES I can trade. I like the tempo, the way it moves. Same thing with the Russell. I don't like how unpredictable the Russell is. The nice thing about the Russell is that when it starts to trend, it really starts to trend. All right, I'm back to neutral here, as this could be a gap and go. So my question is now, can they get back above the opening price? And if so, can they find new buyers up there? Can they keep the ticks pumping up above the open? If so, I will see it as a gap and go and get bullish to head up and test the overnight high. But first I must see the new buyers above the opening price. But anyway, the Russell, sometimes it has really great trends. Sometimes the Russell will start trending and it'll just go all day. And when you look at it in hindsight, you're like, oh, that looks like that would be easier to trade than the ES. But in reality, it's so sporadic in the tempo, in the way it changes from a trend to a rotation, that it's much harder to trade. So I just find the ES to be the easiest. It's also worth mentioning now, it's obviously completely unconfirmed at this point, but it is just worth kind of putting in the back of your mind that often when we have a large gap like this, if we do get a gap and go, one thing we can see is that the advancers versus decliners can become pegged, where they just kind of move sideways all day, kind of up here at higher prices. If you do see that, and again, it's too early to make the call here, but if it keeps going like this for a few more hours and it keeps staying sideways, you can expect the market to keep trending higher all day long. We call it a buy every dip, sell every rip market. So it's not one where it'll go in a straight line. It's one where it'll grind and grind and grind and grind and grind and grind and grind. So you just buy the dip, sell the rip, buy the dip, sell the rip, So anyway, I don't know that that's going to happen today. We could, crash and burn at any moment, but I'm just pointing it out as a potential scenario. Keeping an eye on those advancers versus decliners. Ed G, has Santa rally come early? Yeah, I wouldn't think about anything like that. Remember, why is this happening now? Right? What's the reason for this? The market is at an incredibly pivotal, hugely important level. This area right here, and whichever way it breaks, will tell the market what it's doing for many, many, many months to come. Okay, if we can find support here, we can really try to go higher. But if we cannot, this market could crash and burn. So there's a lot of anticipation building and building and building as we're getting closer and closer to this area. And all it takes is just one little piece of news, and we make these massive moves. All it took was CPI the last time, giant move up to here. Okay? Or sorry, the Fed speaking last time, boom, giant move up. Right? We can completely retrace these moves in a second. And oh, by the way, that next big Fed moment, tomorrow. So I think everything that is in play right now is just the unwinding of all those hedges and bets and all that speculation building up. Pressure is building and building and building. The market is primed for volatility that means nothing. All right, so now an opportunity to look for an edge here. The ticks are getting back to the zero line. So that tells us the overnight inventory has been absorbed and the market is above the halfback, 41.25. So we know we got a good area to look for support in here. And we'll know we can trust that support because it will be a sign that new buyers are stepping in. Or, of course, does it fail? There'll be information in whichever of those two plays out. Nope, no support. Damn, dude, market. All right, I'm back to bearish. Sorry, guys. We do not have the buyers. The gap fill is back in play. Alex, what's the ticker on TradingView for the advancers versus decliners? Jono told you it's ADD. Mm-hmm. So what I would basically be looking for, I would put that in 15-minute increments, and I would just be seeing, can it go sideways right here all day? Yay or nay? All right, so previous support becoming resistance, bearish to see. Ticks beginning to break back below that zero line is bearish. So they just bounced. They just pushed the ticks all the way up to here, above 500, and then they came back down below the zero line again. So that shows us they tried to create support. They tried to buy the market, but they didn't have enough people to keep it going. They didn't get anything for it. So there's less and less people willing to buy each time. And that momentum is getting more and more bearish. Anthony, what's making you mark 4104 as support? A while back, I zoomed out and went to the left, and that was just a previous level where the market had found support. There was a few big nodes there. I mentioned it at the time. That is, it's worth noting, only potentially support. I don't know. Remember, once we break away from the big node, we're often heading to the next big node. So that's a far way down from here. Okay? This is the big node we're breaking away from. And in the same way we broke away from this one, what did we do? A straight move up to that one. We could break away from this one and do a straight move down to the next one. And so I'm saying maybe this one tiny little node can hold up the market. It's possible. But man, if it breaks, down she goes. So we'll have to wait and see. Speaking of which, looks like we're going to test it right now. Michael, could we retrace yesterday's big move? Well, statistically, probabilities would tell us we are not likely to retrace it today. We're not we're likely to retrace it immediately. But yes, it's single prints, it's a gap, it's weakness. And we know weakness loves to get repaired. All right, so here we go once again. Another set of buyers, right? Stepped in. They tried to save this market. They tried to take it higher. So what happens if they can't? What happens if the resistance smacks them down once again? Are there really going to be more buyers waiting to keep doing this over and over? Or are they eventually going to give up and let the market break lower? We'll have to wait and see. Javier, what do you use Bookmap for? What do I use Bookmap for? Generally, I use it to just see where the liquidity is in the market. So the coloring that you see over here, that shows us where the most liquidity is and what price levels it's at. And so I'm looking at where the liquidity is in the current book. And then historically, where was it? Were they bringing in support here before? Was it good, strong support? Did they leave those orders in there waiting? Or did they disappear them just as soon as the market started to move away from those orders, telling me those weren't real buyers? Those were just bots, right? These are the questions I look at. And then I look at the stops and the icebergs, which are these little numbers that you see along here. The stops are the ones with the little triangles. And the icebergs are the ones with the little triangles, and the stops are the ones with the little circles. So I just kind of keep track. I know most of the time when there's a large number for stops, that's going to be short-term traders. That's going to be retail traders who got squeezed. And if there's a large number that is an iceberg, that is likely either a person or a bot from a larger, institutional type of place who is trying to position themselves. And they're using the liquidity created by stopping out those short-term traders again and again and again. So this just lets me kind of observe that behavior. Of course, right now, at this moment today, I don't care about it at all. That's just too much information happening too quickly for me to be able to use that data. So instead, right now, I'm keeping it incredibly simple. I'm focused on support and resistance levels in the price action and momentum in the ticks and the advancers versus decliners. Keep it very simple. That's all the information I need. So sorry to sound like a broken record and say it again, but they just did it again. Buyers bought it up, trying to hold up the market. So we're back to test that resistance once again. If they get smacked down for the sixth time, will they be there for the seventh? Let's find out. So there it is. Slap down again. Do they step in again? DNS, there's a clock in the upper left corner. You can see the real time there. All right, so they just got slapped down again. Are they going to try to buy it up again? When we're stuck in these zones, we just got to wait and see. As of now, the sellers are still in control. Can the buyers take it back? Can they keep buying support? Or are they fixing to get squeezed? Mark. I can't. I have some shred of self-dignity left. I will not go into a Britney Spears song. All right, well, you know what time it is. Back to another round of Can It Hold? We got our last bit of support here around 4104. Is that enough to bring in the buyers? If not, it gets very, very bearish below there. Mark. If you refraining from singing Britney is not worth a like, I don't know what is. Hey, man, I got to do whatever it takes. Give me them likes. Yes, market. Yes. Yes. All right, so here we go. Do they try again? Can they get those ticks back to the zero line? It's also worth noting what I was talking about earlier with the advancers versus decliners did not play out. Those are not going sideways, so ignore everything I said there. Alex, what insight does the tick give you versus the advancers versus decliners? It's really a timing thing. The tick will show you as close to in real time what's happening. Whereas the advancers versus decliners is like a much slower metric. It takes a lot longer. And even slower still is the breadth. But they're more reliable. You know, when you see the advancers versus decliners is definitely doing something, you can really trust it. if it's definitely trending lower, if it's definitely going sideways, you know what I mean? It's really reliable, whereas the ticks, they can change their mind at any second. The ticks can be doing something and then instantly start doing something else. So they're much faster reaction time, but much less reliable over time. Okay, so here we go again. Boy, we love this game today, don't we, market? So they bought the support. They tried once again to save the ticks. They tried once again to see if they could get buyers to take over the market. Will they get slapped down once again? And if they do, how much longer are they going to keep buying the market? That's the question of the day. If we want to know when they're going to be done trying to fill the gap, it'll be when the game ends, when the ticks are finally able to break through. But not yet. Glenn, getting ready to go short. Getting ready. Ugh. All right. Well, there's the break of the support. Increasing the odds. This market needs to go lower. I don't really see any truly reliable support here. Yeah, until we're down at about 40.80. So this is bearish to me. Mark, liquidate. Come on. Mark, brother, we are more than 40 points below our open, and it's been less than an hour. The market is liquidating. Okay, so we're getting a second wave of liquidation here. And we know who these traders are, right? These are the short-term traders that were just buying up here. We were talking about them again and again. We said, look, they keep buying. They keep buying. Look at them. They keep buying. Well, then the market said, you know what? We're going to turn you into sellers. That first liquidation, when they didn't get the bounce, boom, now they're becoming sellers. I won't sing Britney Spears, but I will sing NSYNC. Quit playing games with my heart. This market loves a good game. You, Geo, should sing a song from a different singer based on the TPO letter. I don't hate that idea. I have a feeling the chat will, but I don't hate that idea. Thomas, just the tip A? No full gap fill? Ah, way too early to say that. Way too early. In a time like this, with this much, again, I don't really have the words to properly describe it, but it's like pent up momentum. It's like pent up energy that the market has. It can be extremely volatile, but it doesn't mean anything. All that matters is who's winning. Is it the buyers or the sellers? Do the buyers keep buying and getting nothing for it? Well, then the sellers are going to keep squeezing them and taking the market lower and lower and lower. And they can do it all day. So don't let the range, don't let the size, oh my God, we pushed all the way down to here. And then we turned around and we pushed all the way back up. Oh, we must be done. No gap fill. No, no, no. Let them push up. They'll come right back down again. It's about momentum. And right now, those ticks are trending lower. They are telling us who's in charge. All right, so looking at the Q here, obviously same thing as the ES. It is a gap fill that is in play right now. As we print the C period here, you just left behind a large set of single prints from the B period. That increases the odds that if the market pushes up to backfill them, it will find resistance at the base. Okay, with the C period, you're now one time framing lower. So the market is trying to fill a very large gap, and it has the momentum. What does that mean? Charles, explain this to me like I'm dumb. It means both it has the sellers in control, trying to push the market lower, and it has a giant magnet pulling on price from below with that gap fill. So that is worth taking into account here today, that there's a lot of momentum now. We got the ticks showing the momentum. We got the price action with the trend lower showing the momentum. And we have a reason for the momentum. When all the stars align, don't argue with the market. When it's giving you clear signals of what's going on, you just join the party or you step aside. Don't fight the momentum. Please, I beg you. Now, once the momentum is over, let's say the market can't get all the way down to this gap fill. Let's say at some point during the day, the market finds support in here and it turns around and it gets cessation. The momentum is over. Then we can start getting bullish. Then we can start having a conversation. Okay? But until then, assume the sellers are in charge of the market. So the next major support I see for the Q is 12,046. And for the ES, it's 4074. The market is trending lower. Act accordingly. Members of the brigade, you know what time it is. It's time to set sail on the ship of cool people ship. All right, here we go.